going on, everybody? It's Aurora coming at you with a brand new video, and tonight we got some more reveals out of deck build pack Justice Hunters, and today we are getting the second archetype revealed out of it, that being the Yummy archetype. Yes, it is called the Yummy archetype. So there's actually been a lot of food-based archetypes now that I think about it over the years, Madolche and then the never-released Cook Pals, to name a few. But this one has sort of like a, I want to say like a Melfi vibe in that it's super cutesy. Also reminds me a little bit of like Appliancer and stuff like that. But I don't want to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get right into this new strategy. Starting off, we have Cupsy Yummy, and they have this little star in between, kind of like Live Twin. It's a level 1 light beast with 0 attack and 1600 defense. You can only special it with the first effect once per turn, and you can only use the second effect once per turn. If you control a Link 1 monster or a level 2 Synchro, you can special this card from your hand. And if it's normal or special summon, you can add one Yummy card from your deck to your hand, except Cupsy Yummy, or if it was special summoned by a Synchro monster's effect, you can draw one card instead. Really easy swarming, good stat line, well, not stat line as in like attack and defense, but more so the fact that it is a light, a beast, and a level 1, so it has a bunch of different things that can support it. Tri-Brigade immediately comes to mind, and also the summoning condition works really well with the second effect. I'm not sure if you would want to draw one card most of the time. I guess if you're summoning on like the opponent's turn or something, for example, you might want to draw a card to draw like a hand trap or something like that. But I do like the versatility off of that. Though most of the time you'll probably be adding a Yummy card because it is any card, not even just monster. So there's probably a few different really good options that you can grab here. And next up we have Cookie Yummy. It is another light with level 1 beast with 1000 attack and 0 defense. You can only special summon it with the first effect once per turn, and you can only use the second effect once per turn. If you control a Link 1 or level 2 Synchro, you can special it from your hand. And on summon, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 1000 attack, or if it's special summoned by a Synchro monster's effect, you can destroy that monster instead. So I'm definitely assuming between this and also the Cupsy Yummy that the Synchro monsters, or at least one of them, focuses on summoning on the opponent's turn, though I'm sure that you can also summon stuff on your turn. The 1000 attack loss probably isn't like crazy unless they have a really good OTK like strategy or just damage dealing strategy, but popping is always really good. Lolipo Yummy is another level 1 light beast, 600 attack and 1200 defense this time, has the same restrictions as the other two as well as the same summoning conditions, but on summon it allows you to target a card in the opponent's graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, or if it was summoned by a Synchro monster's effect, you can banish it instead. Graveyard Disruption is always pretty good, and I do like that this is a good effect regardless of if it's your turn or the opponent's turn, or the Synchro Summon thing as opposed to Cookie, which is kind of like a little bit niche with the attack reduction as opposed to the pop, but both of these effects are really good, and sometimes you would rather just summon it, you would rather just shuffle it back into the deck, because a lot of decks will plus off of banishing, Malice, but shuffling something back into the deck is always really solid. Their first Synchro is Cupsy Yummy Way, is level 2 Light Beast Synchro Tuner, with 0 attack and 2200 defense. It requires one tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters, or sorry, one non-tuner monster specifically. Very rare that we see our lack of one or more, but why would it even matter if it was one or more as a level 2? Before its Synchro Summon, you can treat a Link 1 you control as a level 1 tuner. I do know that they have one Link monster and it is a Link 1, and also you can only use each effect once per turn. If it's Synchro Summoned, you can add 2 Yummy monsters from your deck to your hand and then discard one card. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return this card to the extra deck to special up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. Keep in mind, this effect doesn't target specific ones in your graveyard, so even if your opponent disrupts your graveyard in some way, you will still likely have targets. Bare minimum, you will have 2 targets for the things that you use to summon this, not to mention anything you might have discarded after you searched for one, and I do like that it allows you to add 2 different monsters, and then discarding any card, not just one of them. So if you want to discard one of them for the second effect, sure, awesome, but you can also just discard like a complete brick card. Tri-Brigade kit. Really solid Synchro to start the lineup. I think there's 3 total plus a Link 1. The second one is Cookie Yummy Way. It is a level 2 Light Beast Synchro Tuner. This one is a oh yeah, they're both tuners. Interesting. Okay. But it requires one tuner, one non-tuner. For its Synchro Summon, you may treat a Link 1 you control as a level 1 tuner. You can only use each effect once per turn. On Synchro Summon, you can target up to 2 face-up monsters in the field, change them to face-down defense position. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return this card to the extra deck to special up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. I've noticed a lot of cards focusing on booking monsters in the last couple of years, which is interesting. It's not like a terrible form of disruption, but against a lot of Link focus decks, it isn't great. But if you have a way of summoning this on the opponent's turn, it is definitely really solid for disrupting them from Link plays, and I especially like that it has the same second effect as the Cupsy one, because that means that you can easily stack this on top of its first effect if you do summon it on the opponent's turn, allowing you to have even more disruption. Their final synchro monster is Lipo Yummy Way. Another thing this reminds me of, by the way, is Prank Kids. Look at this guy. These remind me of Prank Kids a lot. But Lilipo Yummy Way is a level 2 Light Beast Synchro Tuner, 1200 attack and defense, requires 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner monster. I'm so used to saying one or more. On for Synchro Summon, you can use the Link 1 as a level 1 tuner. You can only use each effect once per turn. On Synchro Summon, you can special summon 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard, but their effects are negated. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can return this card to the extra to special up to 2 Yummy monsters from your graveyard. So I'm assuming the idea is that you use 2 things to go into the Lilipo. Lilipo will summon those things back, and then you can just immediately use them to make another Synchro monster, allowing you to get 4 special summons off of just those effects. The only problem I have so far with the Synchro monsters is that their effects only work on Synchro Summon, so you can't like stack them in like an insane way. You can't go like summon Cupsy back off of Lilipo, and then Lilipo searches, and then Lilipo summon back Cookie book monsters, and then Cookie can summon back more things like Lilipo. Like, I feel like that might be a little absurd, but at the same time, not like crazy. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Would that be like too insane if they said on special summon instead? I don't know. Maybe a little bit. But I do like, again, that this allows you to extend it into even more synchro plays, especially if you haven't gone to the Link 1 yet. And speaking of, let's go ahead and get right into it. This is Yummy Snatchy, which is the little dude in all the artworks. Is a Link 1 Light Beast with 600 attack and a bottom pointing arrow. It requires 1 level 4 or lower Light Beast monster, and you can only use the first effect once per turn. On Special Summon, you can place 1 Yummy field spell from your hand or deck face up on your field. Also, you cannot Link summon Link 3 or higher Link monsters for the rest of this turn. And once per chain during the main phase or your opponent's battle phase quick effect, you can pay 100 life points to immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon using a Yummy monster you control. Okay, so I really like this card. So I can only assume the Yummy field spell is like super good and sets up a bunch of stuff already, just off the top of my head probably. But the second effect is really good because not only do they have a way to summon the opponent's turn like I expected, it's a once per chain with like the most simplistic cost ever of 100 life points per, in that you can easily stack into things like Lilipo, into the Cookie to book things, and you can search for more things, and then you can special back more things from your graveyard. This will easily help you make a bunch of disruptions on the opponent's turn. Not to mention, this can also be treated as a level 1 tuner for those summons as well, which is really good. And also, if this is like a typo and they're not all tuners, maybe the fact that they are tuners is to prevent certain things, but regardless, you can potentially go into even higher synchro monsters that aren't even yummies. Like, you can, I don't know, theoretically, if you had enough stuff, you could make like a Baron, for example. I really like this card, and it is a Link 1 that places the field spell, not search. Speaking of the field spell, we have Yummy's Mint Minion. It is a field spell, of course, that says you can only use the second and third effect once per turn. Yummy monsters you control gain 500 attack for each Light Beast monster on the field. Good God, that's going to be a lot of attack gain. If you control a Link 1 monster, you can target 1 level 1 Yummy monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And if it's in your graveyard, you can target 2 Yummy monsters in your graveyard and or banishment, place them and this card on the bottom of the deck in any order. Massive attack gain, free bodies from the graveyard just for playing your deck right. Recycling for not only itself, but also Yummy monsters that might get hit by something unfortunate, like, I don't know, Shifter, for example, Called by, a DD Crow, anything like that. Really solid field spell. Thank God it's not a combo starter. Their other field spell, apparently, I had no idea they had a second field spell, is Yummy's Mint a Crocky? A Croaky? I think it's a Crocky. Kind of like a Crockpot, maybe? It's a field spell. Of course, it says you can only use each effect once per turn. If you Synchro Summon a Light Beast Synchro monster, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. If a face-up monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, you can special a Yummy monster from your deck. And if it's in your graveyard, it has the same effect as the other one, to place itself and 2 Yummy monsters from grave or banishment on the bottom of the deck. So both of them provide a different source of aggro, being able to either give you stat boost to beat over things or just straight removal, as well as this one will allow you to just extend your plays, whereas this one gives you a little bit of insulation in case your monster leaves the field, while both of them have a really solid recovery effect. I'm not sure which one I consider better. I think this one is a little bit more like good question mark, whereas this one is a bit more situational because mostly removal, but the second effect isn't as good. So I'd say maybe like a 2-1 ratio or something like that. I don't know, just off the top of my head. And maybe even just a 1-1, because you can always just swap them out, and they do have that really good recovery effect that you can always just use to place them back off of the Link 1. So, I don't know, but both of these are pretty solid field spells without being insanely broken, especially with how many ridiculous field spells that both search and or give like a misc effect these days. And the final card in the archetype, by the way, is Yummy Redemption. It is a continuous trap card, and oh, this poor little dude's backed into a corner, Jesus. But it says you can only use the third effect of its name once per turn. Monsters your opponent controls lose 200 attack for each light beast you control and in your graveyard. Again, combine this with that field spell, and that's some massive stat reduction in game. Once per chain, if you synchro summon a light beast synchro monster, you can draw one card, then place one card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, and you can banish this card from your grave, then target one Yummy monster you control and one monster your opponent controls, and switch control of both. Not a terrible trap card. It is technically a disruption, though giving your opponent something instead of just like, I don't know, maybe like banishing both of them is kind of annoying. Plus it leaves the thing that you gave them, or sorry, that they gave you on the field, and they can just out it and get it in their grave or something again like they wanted to. And then this is pretty neat. Of course it'd be insanely broken if it just said draw a card, but I think maybe if it was just a once per turn draw a card instead of like the once per chain cycling might be a little bit better, but I don't know, maybe drawing into a bunch of disruption would be pretty cool. But I do like the hilarious stat reduction combined with the stat increase of minion. This is just ridiculous. Well, with that being said, that's going to do it for the Yummy archetype. I think that there is some crazy potential here. It reminds me a lot of, like, Purely. Also reminds me a lot of Sprite with the summoning condition. Instead of, like, a level Link rank 2, it's a Link 1 or level 2 synchro, being just a free way to get a body out. They do technically have a 1-card starter in the form of the Cupsy Yummy, and I guess actually any of them are 1-card starters into at least something now that I think about it, because the Link 1 just straight up places the Yummy field spell that summons a dude back from your grave, so all of them technically are actually 1-card starters, because then you can go into like a Lilipo can summon back 2 things, and you can synchro summon again, and you can do like a bunch of really cool stuff. I really love their theming of like summoning back the things from the graveyard, using them to trigger disruptions, and then being able to synchro summon again on the opponent's turn, just like Winter Soldier from Rivals or something. And then all of them have really cool, like not super broken removal or disruption effects, but something that's enough to at least stagger your opponent. Not to mention, I'm assuming you can probably fit just a shit ton of non-engine to this deck if you play it more pure, though you can admittedly probably play a few different engines with it. I want to say Tri-Brigade, but at the same time, I don't want to be banishing my Yummy monsters from the graveyard. I would much rather summon them back from our synchro effects. So maybe not Tri-Brigade, or maybe if we use the Tri-Brigade, it's like only on its own compact thing to access your dudes, go into like Farragut or something. I can easily see ending off on this stuff's disruption plus like an SP and a Revolt. I think that would be pretty sick, but I don't know, that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments below, because that's gonna do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as I'll put this video and the channel into the YouTube recommended, and if there's content where like it, like the rest of my review series, then perhaps consider subscribing and turning notifications if you haven't already, because support should know anything else, and it's absolutely free. Also, you can support me directly while getting some awesome perks in the process. Check out my Patreon down below, where you can see the perks you can get from my $1 and $5 tiers, such as getting your name at the end of the video, plus also early video access, and access to my PNGs, alongside being able to choose what decks go in the polls for Sleeper Sunday. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.